Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to the department.
Morning, Chairperson. Wamuhle bo.
Morning, honorable Kawa. Thank you very much. it's exactly 9:31. I wanted us to start on time. I just switched on my camera to ascertain members that it is the chair in the meeting. And I'm going to be switching it off just to enhance the capacity of the audio. I am welcoming all of you to the meeting, to this portfolio committee meeting. We are nearing the end of the term, and we are, of course, focusing on some of the topics or the key focus areas that we had identified as a portfolio committee to be very important for us. We are going to be focusing on infrastructure today and the implementation or the progress on the task team that was meant to look at the history curriculum. Honorable members, you are welcome, and the department led by the minister and the deputy minister, you are also welcome. We've got quite voluminous documents that we've received as part and parcel of the presentation, and I do hope that members went through these documents and members are ready to interact with the department on the information that we've received. Honorable members, as a way to start the meeting, I wanted to just highlight that we've come a long way as a country in terms of the state of infrastructure in our schooling system. There was a review done by government in 2014 on the state of the schooling infrastructure. And the basis of that review, when they started the engagement on ascertaining how far we've become, indicated that the picture of the schooling infrastructure in 1994 actually presented immense backlogs. And these were backlogs in terms of access to water facilities, access to electricity, adequate on-site sanitation, and access to laboratories and libraries. And this was mostly prevalent in your Black communities. And of course, this was caused by the disproportionate allocation of resources by the then apartheid regime, where in most of the schooling areas where Black people or the historically marginalized communities resided, the allocation of resources was very little. As a result, you had classes that had 45 learners to one teacher ratio. You had issues of school infrastructure that was really inadequate. We had mud schools, and many of our schools did not have access to water, electricity, and many of the things that constitute adequate infrastructure in our schooling system. In the modern day, of course, part of the infrastructure that we require or that we want to see in our schools is access to internet access by our schools. So I wanted to start there that we've come a long way, 30 years or 32 years since the dawn of democracy. We've seen buildings of new schools. We've seen some work, some concerted effort in trying to bridge the backlog and trying to close that immense backlog that the democratic government found in place when it took over government. However, we must admit and we must accept that there is still glaring gaps in terms of infrastructure in our public schools, especially in the same areas that we are speaking about, where you find majority of the historically marginalized communities. Those schools are still characterized by inadequate infrastructure. And as a result, the discussion today to the department and with the department ought to really give us a picture and a comprehensive overview of how bad the situation is, how we have progressed, the progress that we have made, and take stock of exactly the remaining backlogs that still are prevalent in our schooling system. And the discussion and the engagement or the information that we're going to receive must also engage or enlighten this portfolio committee on exactly what are the challenges, what are the key challenges that have prevented us over time to bridge this gap effectively, and to have adequate schooling infrastructure in those areas. Of course, as one has said, that a lot has been done, but we still have prevalences of schools that do not have adequate water supply, that do not have adequate provision of electricity, that do not have laboratories and libraries. And the two libraries and laboratories are still a huge issue, especially in your rural provinces. And the access to internet, as I want us to include this as a important infrastructure for a effective provision of education in our school, is still a huge challenge for many schools in the historically marginalized communities. So we are hoping that the engagements today and the presentations of the department will give us an overview and a picture, so that as we engage, as we undertake our work of oversight, we have an understanding of exactly where is the gap and how big is the gap, and what are our plans, what is the plans of the department to ensure that we bridge this gap. We've received reports that currently we've got more than 24,000 schools, as 24,000 public schools. And I do hope that the department will give us a picture of, out of these 24,000, or all the functioning schools, because of course some have been merged, some are no longer functioning schools. Exactly what is the gap in terms of the schools that we have in the country. So I thought that I should start there to say we acknowledge that we started from a very, very bleak picture. We have done work, and that work, some of us who've been to a school in the rural areas in the den times can go back to the same villages, and we see a difference in terms of the infrastructure. Although in other areas, this change is not prevalent, and this change is still really lacking. And that's where that's what we want to zoom on. We want to get an understanding of these gaps, and what the plans are in place to bridge these gaps. The issue of the history curriculum, which is a debate and a discussion that has dominated the discourse over time on the importance of incorporating history into our curriculum, because we believe that as a country, to really foster social cohesion and to really ensure that South Africans understand their responsibility as citizens, and they appreciate the persons or the people they are, they ought to understand the journey that the South African people have walked and have undertaken over years. And with that understanding, our belief is that when we have that understanding, it is going to assist us, and it is going to assist the future generation to be more patriotic, and it is going to foster social cohesion when the young people, through the education curriculum, understand the pain of the past. They understand where this country has been and where it is now, and they will then grasp the importance of why we should build and foster this unity as a nation, and why we should build this nation. And that can only come from people who know who they are, And the only way to know who we are is also knowing where we come from as the people. And as a result, this is one of the a key engagement that we thought we should have. We should get an update on the task team that was established to look at this issue on integrating history curriculum in our curriculum. And we get to get a sense of how far we are and how prepared we are to actually implement the recommendations that this task team might have made. I thought just this opening remarks will at least set the scene for exactly what we are going to be engaged on today as a portfolio committee. Mr. Brown, can we fly to the agenda so that we can check if we do have a quorum? I just scanned through the attendance register and I thought in my own calculations that we do have a quorum. And if you can at least share with us if we do have any apologies, and then we can then go into the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members. Good morning, Minister and Deputy Minister, officials from the Department Chair. In attendance, I have yourself, Honourable Maimela, I have Honourable Chaba Nchaba, Honourable Govana, Honourable Low, Honourable Magagula, Honourable Dr. Christians, Honourable Jordan, Honourable Ngube, and Honourable Kumane. I do believe Honourable Mashabela might be on the platform with the iPhone. I will just check with her on that one.
You're right, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Honourable Mashabela. Chair, I have apologies for Honourable Kasa, Honourable Ngubeni, and Honourable Webster. Also, Minister Khwarube may have to leave us a bit earlier this morning. I think she did indicate around 11 o'clock. She's just got another commitment. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. With that said, I do believe that we've got adequate quorum. Members, can we adopt the agenda? We are really just having 2 items, which will be presentations from the department. And then from there, we are going to go to the adoption of minutes of the last meeting. That is our agenda.
Morning, Chair. I'm going to adopt the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Kaba. And any seconder?
Chair.
Honorable Law.
I second the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Law. The agenda is duly adopted. Honorable Minister, Honorable DM, you are welcome with the comprehensive team that you are with. We are now going to hand over to you. I do hope that you try and give us this presentation, bearing in mind time constraints, because of course there is a National Assembly in the afternoon. But I really hoped that I will give you adequate time. So I don't want to specify time, but I'm just saying the department's presentation ought to really take note of time constraints. Honorable Minister, welcome. You can lead the presentation.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to members of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you once again for an opportunity to come and present the work of government, particularly insofar as the issues around infrastructure are concerned. And Chair, what we've decided to do is I will do brief opening remarks. The DG will come after me. Then will be the PowerPoint presentation and the DM will close. And we've tried to make sure that that is as tight as possible so that we can have more time for engagement with the members. And so, Chair, we are gathering today, I think, coincidentally, on World Toilet Day, which is really a global commitment to ensuring safe sanitation and dignified sanitation for all around the world. And so really, as we are going to be doing an unpacking on the SAFE initiative, I think it speaks definitely to the commitment, as you were speaking earlier, the commitment that was made by government to say that there are still inappropriate infrastructure, pit toilets that are unsafe, undignified for many people in South Africa. And if we're going to say we're pushing education outcomes, we've got to create an environment that is conducive for those outcomes to happen. And so it is in that vein that the Sanitation Appropriate for Education initiative was started back in 2018. To date, SAFE has completed 3,145 of the 3,375 targeted sanitation projects. And in fact, this is obviously due to the work that's done by PEDs, the work that's being done by DBE, but also some of the work, and I think, Chair, it's important to also recognize some of the work that is done by corporate and social partners who are helping us clear this backlog. In fact, yesterday, I was in rural KwaZulu-Natal handing over flush toilets at Deda Primary School that had only basic pit toilets for many years for over 600 children who go to that school. And so Breadline and other partners are also partnering with government to say there's a huge backlog that we need to make sure that we are targeting so that the deadline that has been set for us for next year, that we can really try to meet. However, these also recent developments, Chair, are happening in the context where you members would have heard during the medium-term budget policy statement that it's going to impact the approach that DBE has on infrastructure delivery. The Minister of Finance announced that the Education Infrastructure Grant and the School Infrastructure Backlogs Grant is going to, in fact, be merged, which then means, Chair, predominantly the funds to deal with infrastructure and infrastructure backlogs is going to be done at a provincial level. And while we had made an argument that it's useful for the school infrastructure backlog grants to remain with DBE so that we may be able to intervene where provinces are not delivering at the pace that we would like to deliver, Treasury has made the case that it's going to streamline grants and it's going to allow government to make their money stretch further than it is. That then means, Chair, that within DBE, we have to reimagine how we deal and deliver infrastructure. We're going to have a far more robust oversight role. We're going to have to do a lot of grant management work with provinces. We're going to have to do a lot of capacity building for provinces to deal with these infrastructure backlogs on their own. And so I just thought it was important to flag that with the committee that starting from the new financial year, we won't have that grant sitting with DBE, but it will in fact be sent through to provinces to deliver. And so, honorable members, I just want to, I'm going to close now and hand over to the DG. The presentation we're going to present to you today, I really hope that you can see that it's not just about numbers on a board, but it's also about infusing dignity and safety to people who haven't always had access to it. As the chair says, this is about really undoing a historical injustice. And there's nothing dignified about the use of a pit toilet for children and educators alike. And so I want to hand over to the team to show you some of the work that we've done, the work that has been done from 2018 thus far, but also some of the challenges, Chair, because, and I'm sure the committee is well aware that there are challenges with infrastructure. In fact, infrastructure is possibly our Achilles heel as a sector because it's a constant moving target. We have a backlog to clear, but after that backlog is done, there will be another target to meet. And so it's a constant moving target, but I think we are energized to try and meet the deadline by the 31st of March as per the President's commitment. Thank you. Over to you, DG.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and Honorable Chair. I must say, on a lighter note, people commended the chair for looking good. My minister also looks good. I hope some people commended as well. I just wanted to show my picture, and after that, I'm just going to combine the comments with the presentation, and I'm going to use Ms. Ramahapi's a laptop chair, if you don't mind. As the minister said, this is a very important day. Yeah, I was saying it's a very important day, and Chair, we are mindful of the time that you have given us. Although you said you don't want to limit us, I hope you can hear me, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, DG.
Thank you
we
very
are
much.
We're
Yeah,
just seeing
so I'm
movement
going to
on
gallop.
your.
As the minister gave a very comprehensive background, this is the outline of the presentation. And I'm not going to go through it because I take it that we have the presentation. We've sent additional information on construction sites that we visited. On construction sites that we visited per school with dates on each of the construction sites that we visited for ease of reference. And as the chair indicated, I hope that will be useful. This is the purpose to follow the topic that has been given to us. We're focusing on infrastructure rollout, but the main issue would be learner safety as we give progress on the infrastructure rollout. And I must indicate as a disclaimer, Chair, that ICT for us, you are right, it forms part of infrastructure, but ICT, we tend to deal with it in terms of ICT and connectivity, and therefore it's not going to form part of this presentation. We're more than happy to come back to present on that, to give progress also in terms of ICT connectivity, which includes internet connectivity, provision of devices, using devices, and connectivity for teaching and learning. So we're more than happy to come back and cover that. Just as a reminder from the NDP as an introduction, the NDP also confirms that when we plan infrastructure, learner safety must be taken into account. And then in this regard, we're only sharing data sources, the school register of needs. We're giving different dates in terms of the ACD, some of the documents that we have put together to detail, the journey that we have traversed so far, as you correctly painted it out in your introduction, starting with the survey which was carried out in 1994. To date, will show that progress here, Chair. And I must just say, in the interest of time, I won't cover everything. From the backlog, which is indicated in 1996, we've been able to 331 schools which were inappropriate have been replaced up to so far. And we cover that in that graph as well. And I must indicate right from the beginning that there are three main provinces that we focused on. And I must also indicate the sources of funding from DBE is school backlog infrastructure grant, the SBIG. And then you've got the EIG, Education Infrastructure Grant, which is transferred to provinces. So DBE, we are only reporting on what DBE is doing. There's work that provinces are doing through the EIG, and that is actually not included here. So we are not giving the whole picture of what is done by the 10 education departments. We're giving an account of the money given to us through the school backlog infrastructure grant. But that will go a long way to show how we've dealt with the backlog that was identified. 331 schools were replaced across the entire country. And Chair, You also wanted to know, I think, about the total number of schools. You are right, it's 24,836. Of the 24,836, 22,511 are public schools, 2,325 are independent schools or private schools. That's the total number of schools that we have. And then this is just an example of some of the schools that we have replaced. We have built the state-of-the-art schools, particularly in Eastern Cape, in KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo. The sad story, Chair, is that in many of these areas where we've put state-of-the-art facilities, areas have been depopulated, people moving from areas where there is no economic activity to areas of economic activity. And many of these schools are operating almost at half the capacity that is provided because people have moved to areas of economic activity. That's some of the challenges that you are faced with as you roll out infrastructure across the country. And then in terms of schools with no water supply, from the backlog that is indicated there, I'll focus on the third, which is C. 1,336 we've supplied with water. And I must indicate, Chair, that an overwhelming number of our schools depend on rain harvested water. Even after providing water through boreholes and connecting to the bulk water supply that is there in some areas, the majority of the areas in the rural areas don't have bulk water supply. They still depend on rain harvested water, and this water in our schools is even shared with communities. So I think that is important to highlight that point, that rain harvested water is not clean, safe water for consumption. But because people don't have an option, they still use rain harvested water where we have not reached out to them and have been able to provide. In instances where we provide boreholes, during dry seasons, the water table dries up, and some of the facilities that we provided to even schools and communities, they are unable to draw water, especially during drought seasons or dry seasons where you find rain taking too long to cover those areas. So that's some of the challenges that we are faced with. I'm experiencing some problem here. I don't know what's happening. My slide is not moving. Sorry. So we're then giving examples of some of the facilities that we have mounted across the length and breadth of this country. And I can say, Chair, in Eastern Cape, in Limpopo and KZN, I've been to all the 12 districts. I've been able to visit the majority of projects. The other team members, which are led by Ms. Diale and Mr. Mafuko, have also covered the length and breadth of the country in monitoring all of these projects. Schools that are provided with electricity, we've been able to reach out because of, you don't have broad infrastructure rollout to many of these areas. So we've been able to cover only 373 and connecting them to the main point where you'd have infrastructure rollout of electricity that is not far from where the school is. And we're indicating those figures there over the years. Schools with no toilets, for ASIDI only, we are still coming for safe. For ASIDI, we've been able to cover 1,887, where we've replaced basic pits, which I will show later, with VIPs or ventilated structure of a toilet. which we'll show a little later. And these are some of the examples of the toilets that we have. You go to villages, you'll find these toilets. It might not be all villages, but you go to most villages, as I've said, in the 3 provinces, all 12 districts were covered. It might not be all schools, but all 12, all the districts were covered in all the 3 main provinces that I've referred to: Eastern Cape, KZN, and Limpopo. And then in terms of overcrowding, yes, indeed, we've been able, because we've just started with dealing with overcrowding. 18 classrooms have been completed, and we're in the course of rolling out to others. That's why targets are indicated above there. Even 65, we're going to reach out to them. But I must also indicate, as the minister would have also covered that one, the school backlog infrastructure grant is now moving over to be merged with EIG, which will now be administered in all the 9 provinces to cater for infrastructure needs, which means that DBE will not have financial resources to intervene. All the resources will now be located in the 9 provinces. And that's the implication of that. And the limitations of having the resource, all the resources located to provinces, I think the minister would have covered that, or the DM will even cover that a little later. This is the example for overcrowding, and these are the different categories. When we talk about basic pit toilets, this is what we mean. What is on top there, which has some corrugated irons, a combination of some bricks and cement structure, and the other one is the old structure that you can see, and you can see all of those that are on top. But at the bottom is ventilated, improved Pit-Latrines, what we call VIPs. This is what we are providing, what is at the bottom, to replace the ones that are on top, which are unsafe. But I must indicate these are not waterborne toilets, as they are called, ventilated improved pit toilets, which are safe, approved by the United Nations to be used all over the world, and are safe and can even preserve hygienic conditions. Schools depended on basic pit-latrine toilets. In terms of safe, we've been able to deliver 3,375 of these. In fact, out of 3,375 of this, we've been able to deliver 3,145, which have been completed, which constitute about 93% of the total backlog that we received. This is one of the examples of such, and this is the work breakdown structure. If you look at the pink table at my right in the extreme, we're showing there from what we had, which was 3,375. PC stands for practical completion, which means that the structure has been completed and handed over to the school. We now have 3,145, which constitutes 93%. And there are the implementing agents. We've got about 10 implementing agents. We've got these ones, plus public works in provinces and so on. And all in all, they make up about 10 implementing agents. They've got their own challenges. They've got capacity challenges. You can see, where they are sitting, all of them. And we struggle with many of them to get them to complete some of the projects that we have allocated to them. And that's why we've come up with a solution of a framework agreement, where we come up even with alternative means of allocating projects to other agencies or entities that would be able to deliver infrastructure than the implementing agents that we have. So we do have challenges with these implementing agents, capacity challenges, but also some of them having taken over too many projects. They service education, they service local government, they service other departments as well. And they use the same contractors who are also overstretched at times. So in terms of learner safety, I'm just going to run. This is how you start a construction site. You've got to secure it. There must be a proper office that is established, and this is how you secure it properly. And the walkways, we're showing how we construct. You'll get these walkways when you go to the villages. You'll see them. You don't only find them in the suburbs and the townships. You find them in the villages. You'll find these walkways that are constructed in some of our schools. The issue of stone pitching, this is how we insist as we monitor that it must be built. Manholes, you'll know of cases where learners were found in the pits, in the substructure of the pit. Now the manholes that we put in there are lockable, and the lock remains with the school principal so that nobody is able to throw in anything, whether it be a human being or a child, in the substructure of the toilet or in the pit. So you have those manholes there. And the installation of hand washing basins, this is how we install them. The issue of the toilet seats, you need to have appropriate toilet seats for the appropriate ages, some for educators and some for learners. When we started, some of the toilet seats were too low for adults. We had to say they must be replaced and get the appropriate seats for adults so that they do not strain them. They must feel relaxed when they are seated in toilets. This is the retaining wall. You have this retaining wall because the landscape of these three provinces is quite challenging. And this is how the retaining wall is done, as you can see there. The issue of proper urinals, fitting proper urinals at the requisite levels, given the ages of learners, and so on. But if it's adults, there's a standard way of fitting your urinals. The issue of frosted windows is very important to preserve privacy. In some cases, we found contractors having put in windows that are clear, and that poses safety of learners because people can see learners in the toilet. So they've got to be frosted rather, like the windows, the proper windows that we have in our own toilets. The issue of the screen wall to protect learners also who are in the toilet, as some of them might come out of the toilet without having been properly dressed. The screen wall is intended to do that. If there are problems with closing the door, the screen wall should be able to protect them, to cover that area, as you can see. The issue of grade R facilities for psychological and safety reasons, facilities of grade R learners have got to be fenced close to their classroom so that they are monitored by teachers and they don't mingle with other learners, grown-up learners who might bully them and so on. Teachers need to see when they go to toilets, go and supervise them and all that. The dwarf walls are important for education and for supervision. Education for grade R learners extends even to facilities, teaching them how to sit on the toilet, how to use it, how to clean it, and making sure that it remains clean. The teacher must be there, be able to supervise all of them. The dwarf walls play a very important role for a teacher to be able to do that. The issue of the rails for people with disability, we're showing that there. The hand grips for, again, people with disability. These are toilets that we've been building for the past many years that you have referred to, Chair. We fit in these things. You'll find them when you go to our schools. It might not be all schools, but the schools that I've indicated now. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, DG.
DG?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
What's the problem? Is it the network?
DG, we can hear you now.
Oh, this, please.
But she's talking. Can we hear?
DG, we can hear you.
Talk, DG. I think we can hear you. Can
Chair, can you hear me?
We can hear you, DG.
Yeah, where we are, it's a headcom venue. So there's a problem with connectivity. We are in the rural areas of the Northwest. That's where we brought a headcom. I'm sorry. So I was talking to the hand grips for people with disabilities. This is what you find in toilets that we've been building. And then we also have she bins, Chair. You remember we talked about she bins the other time. These are mounted she bins. You won't find it in all schools. But schools that we've been building for the past 3 to 4 years, 5 years, we're fitting in she bins. We still have a backlog of old facilities that are there where we need to go and fit in she bins as well. So I want to make that acknowledgement as well. The issue of hurricane clips is very important to secure the roof. The installation of burglar doors. There's a lot of burglary in the townships and the rural areas because our schools, not many of them can afford security personnel. So the facilities have to be secured. We put in burglar doors as well. The issue of the demolition of the old structures, which are the structures that kill our children, and the rehabilitation of the soil, it's another area that we're focusing on, and we monitor that you don't only build new toilets, you have to demolish old ones and rehabilitate the soil, which can be used for garden purposes and other things, is what we are encouraging. Support and monitoring, I'm almost done, Chair. From contract level, the program support unit, which are consultants that we hire as well, who would help us to monitor each and every project. Before we pay from implementing agent, they need to confirm that they went to monitor, and therefore the value of what we need to pay for do corresponds with the work that has been done on the ground. This is what they do there. And in terms of meetings, we indicating meetings that I hold with individual implementing agents every Monday, and meetings also that we hold with infrastructure, and meetings that are held by the infrastructure line function on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which is operational. On Thursday, we also hold meetings with all implementing agents collectively, including meetings that the minister and the deputy minister would convene. The minister had meetings with implementing agents to listen to them, but also to help nudging them and pushing them to do work much more speedily, and putting the agency of delivering this infrastructure to each and every one of the implementing agents that we have. These are the construction sites visits that we have done. As I've said, in KZN, in Eastern Cape and Limpopo, we've been to all their districts monitoring projects, and the numbers can show, the reports that we shared with you can also confirm that. The issue of the establishment of the site, this is what we picked up. In some cases, the site is not secured properly, and we are saying the right shows this is how to do it. I mean, you can see if the site is not properly secured, is not safe for learners are able to jump in, they can get injured, many injuries can happen there. That's part of our monitoring to make sure that contractors take care of this. Look at the walkway. We are even saying this is not the correct walkway, is not of the correct standard. It must be above ground level, so that when it rains, mud does not cover the walkway, because learners can go over the mud, and it can create many injuries, even for teachers, if the walkway is not above ground to be able to withstand the mud and even the water, the storm water that might be running over. And again, we're showing some of the things that we picked up there. The issue of the V-drain, it must be a proper V-drain that is able to direct water, and we're showing you the correct one there. Also, the proper construction of the V-drain, again, we're showing additional information there. Construction of the retaining walls, we're also showing a proper retaining wall. If you don't have a proper retaining wall, the structure of the toilet might also be damaged, and the entire building might be unsafe if you don't have a retaining wall that is able to push the storm water and protect the building. In terms of the walls, we are encouraging brick walls to discourage graffiti. As you can see on the right, the other one has got graffiti. On the brick walls, you won't be able to have much graffiti there. Even if it's there, you won't be able to see. And the issue of vent pipes, those vent pipes are those long pipes that ventilate the toilet. Some of them we picked up, they were of poor quality. Some were not properly fitted. And this is what we pick up and follow up and make sure that they are properly fitted, knitted enough to the wall so that they are even able to withstand the west winds in some areas of the country. And then the issue of urinals, some of them that are not fitted properly. If the pipes are exposed like that, learners climb on those pipes and they get damaged. The pipes need to be hidden or be put at the back and be properly covered so that they don't get damaged. The issue of lockable manholes, again, we're showing in some instances we got these ones which are not acceptable. We approve only these ones that are lockable. The windows, I've covered that. Plain windows are not acceptable. Frosted windows is what is acceptable. The issue of column support helps to hold the roof, especially heavy storms and winds. In some of the areas, you definitely need column support so that the roof is not blown off or even the roof sheets are not damaged. And then what we're also showing here is proper fencing of the Grade R. In some cases, the Grade R was not properly fenced. In other instances, it was not fenced at all to protect them for educational and psychological reasons that I've stated already. And walkways for people with disability to be constructed properly. We're showing an example of what is acceptable there. And then making the Grade R also to provide for disability. We're also providing an example of that. Seats for staff and she-bins. Again, we're giving an example. There are others where these were not provided and we insisted that they should be provided. Seats for Grade R, you can see some of them were not appropriate. We ended up getting the appropriate ones. And cleaning of even the roof after working, we make sure that every facility is left clean. When it's handed over to the school, it should be properly done. Proper demolition of old structures and soil rehabilitation is also covered. And then painting of the floors. In some instances, they use the material which can be easily washed off. We reject that and they have to redo it and make sure that the floors are properly painted. And then adequate fitting of hurricane clips. I've indicated the importance of that. And painting of the rafters also is very important to preserve them. If they are not painted, they are not secured, they are not preserved, they easily get weak and end up rotting because of either water or some insects will end up making them weak. So they have to be painted and be secured so that they are protected. And the issue of burglar doors, again, to secure the facility, as well as burglar doors for people with disability. We are saying this is how they must be fitted in so that they are able to open them and not wrongly fitted as indicated on the other side. Backfilling and compaction of soil is very important, which means that it must be firmed up so that when you get water, the soil doesn't go below the structure or sink and then sink the structure eventually. And those are some of the things we check because they are important for safety. And again, the provision of she-bin, we're showing that we monitor that. Hand washing basins, poor workmanship we don't allow. I'm almost done, Chair. The upkeep, we're just showing that the biggest challenge in the system is now the maintenance and the upkeep of our facilities. We're showing those schools that are maintaining their facilities properly, and look at on your left, schools that are just not using their facilities properly. They end up accumulating filth, hand washing basins. It's, you know, that's some of the things that you see in schools, but in others, they really look after them. The floors dirty, and we confronted some of the school principals. They confess, some of them, that they don't monitor. They don't go and check the toilets, particularly of boys. We've now put together measures to make sure that we address all of these things. Graffiti, as you can see, and filth on the wall, but the other one, it's well looked after. The grass is not even maintained. It covers even the walkway. People won't be able to use the walkway, but the other one, the grass is well looked after. Vandalism, it's one of the major problems, and these are the slides that show vandalism there. This is the very last part of the presentation, which is measures to counter poor maintenance and upkeep. We're just quoting the director of UNICEF there, who talks about hygiene and healthy conditions that we need to maintain for our children so that they are not exposed and become vulnerable to some of the things that we know about. And this is some of the best practice that we share with schools to encourage them to keep their facilities clean, delineating the roles and responsibilities of officials of the department up to the school principal and the school management team. The school maintenance training implementation program, which Mr. Mafoko has started with Ms. Diale, to train our officials who are in turn training school principals, training teachers, and training school governing bodies on the maintenance and the upkeep of our infrastructure. Some of the sources of documents that we also share with them, and some of the stakeholders where we've been able to cover, and the numbers of some of the people that we have covered. Thank you very much, Chair, for indulging me. It's been a long presentation, 89 slides, all in all, but I've tried to run through it. The challenges are immense. You've got the business forums that we are contending with. Some are construction mafias. We have walked through them. We've tried to make sure that we intervene where there were blockages and problems, but the challenges are immense. I don't want to not bring this to your attention about some of the challenges that we face on the ground. Thank you very much, Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you very much, DG. I believe you are not done. The second part of the presentation.
Yeah. The second one is the history project.
Yes, you can go through that presentation. We're going to take discussions at once.
Going to be very short. Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister, Honorable Chair, and Honorable Members, is going to be done by Mr. Rakwate. Mr. Rakwate, quickly, please.
Thank you, DG. I'm struggling to share here. It says you cannot share the screen while somebody's sharing the screen.
I'm removing this one. It's almost done.
Okay. Thank you, DG.
There you go. Yours is up.
Thank you.
So, Chair, Mr. Rakwate is the Chief Education Specialist responsible for social sciences, which is geography and history in the department. He's been the experts who's been babysitting the history project, and is going to take us through that presentation, which I want to maintain. It's very short, much shorter than the one that I've gone through. Mr. Rakwate.
Thank you, DG. Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, senior managers of the department, as well as members of the Portfolio Committee. This presentation is based on the progress report on the implementation of history as a compulsory subject. This is the presentation outline, and the purpose is to present to the Portfolio Committee a progress on the implementation of history as a compulsory subject. The preamble of this presentation is based on the National Development Plan that highlights the importance of history, heritage, and culture more for understanding our past. And moreover, that they foster social understanding and social cohesion, which is important for social as well as economic stability and growth in the country. The issue of compulsory history came as a result of that there was a decline in the uptake of history in the schooling system between 2008 as well as 2015. And this continuing decline raised some concerns among officials to say if our learners don't do this subject, it means they will know very little about their country and the society in which they live in, and especially they will lose a sense of nationalism and patriotism, as well as national identity that is derived through the study of history, and that they will be unable to appreciate the historical contribution that is being made by others that went ahead of them, especially with regards to the issues of establishing a new democracy in South Africa. As a result, based on that problem statement above, the former minister, Mrs. Angie Motshekga, appointed a history ministerial task team on June 2015 to advise her on the possibility of offering history as a compulsory subject in further education and training. We must understand that currently the situation in South African schools is that history is compulsory until grade 9 as part of social sciences because the subject is joined together with history and geography. So the compulsory component was only based at FET level, where the subject is an elective. We must indicate that the team started their work in March 2016, and they managed to complete their work in 2017. And as a result, a report was submitted to the minister in May. This slide highlights the members of the History Ministerial Task Team. It is a 7-member team comprising mostly of historians. Only one among these is an archaeologist by the name of Professor Amanda Esther Hazen. The chairperson of the team is Professor Sfiso Ndlovu. The terms of reference, as they were appointed to do a comparative international study on best practice regarding the offering of history in FET schools, advice on possible modalities for the compulsory introduction of history, including the consideration of it as part of citizenship located within life orientation, and they were to review the content of history in both GET and FET, audit the number of teachers, audit the number of history teachers in training centers, propose teacher development programs. Looking at the comparative study, the team had to look at the following questions: whether history is compulsory in a given country, and if so, up to which grade; whether history is a standalone or an integrated subject, and at what level. They had to look at the content framework, the level of control, the particular approaches which particular countries took, and the kind of identity that was being promoted by that curriculum of history. The findings coming from that comparative studies are as follows. The team highlighted that history is important or has an important place in the school curricula across many parts of the world. However, there were variations in how this was offered. In some countries, the subject was offered as a separate subject, meaning as a history standalone, not combined with other ones, like in the case of social sciences. But in some other countries, the subject was integrated. In many countries, it must be highlighted that history was offered as a compulsory subject until grade 9, like as in the case of South Africa, where we have it until junior secondary school. But we must also highlight that in some countries, the subject was offered as a compulsory subject until upper secondary schools. And the team managed to highlight and caution the minister and the department to say, history can be a tremendously political subject, and we must guard against that so that we must not divide the nation. Especially examples of such countries where history is used politically, in the case of Brazil, in the case of Rwanda, where a Tutsi perspective is predominant in the history narrative, as well as in the case of Zimbabwe. Key recommendations emanating from the international study. The ministerial task team recommended the following to the minister: that history should be made compulsory at FET band and should replace life orientation as the fourth fundamental subject. However, life orientation should remain in the schooling system until GET band, and the content thereof should be strengthened. And the team also recommended the following: that history should be separated from geography in social sciences at the GET band. And they also highlighted the following things: that currently the curriculum of CAPS has some serious limitations and need to be overhauled. There are still some areas in the content where there's still some Eurocentrism. And as a result, those areas need to be cleared up in terms of overhauling the curriculum altogether. And they highlighted the principle that the new principle finding or grounding the new curriculum should be Africa-centeredness, and therefore bring ancient history as well as African history, pre-colonial history into the curriculum. Around October in 2018, the minister reappointed the task team, and this time said to them they should revise the history curriculum as they indicated that it has got some limitations. They started the work in 2019 and they managed to finish. They continued in 2019, but their work was interrupted around 2020. We can remember that around 2020 we had the pandemic, and therefore there were some serious limitations in terms of how far people can move with the lockdown. Members of the team, still a 7-member team in the case of the ministerial task team. Chairperson, still Professor Sfiso Ndlovu. One replacement in this regard at number 7. We're highlighting that Dr. Kalinikos had to be replaced, requested to be released from the team, and was replaced by Dr. Suren Seattle. The team continued to do the work around 2020 using a virtual platform because the country was still under lockdown. And their contract expired around April 2023. And we had to request the minister to approve that their term of office should be extended until 2025. Their new terms of reference, as they were appointed to overhaul the curriculum, was to develop a new history curriculum from grades 4 to 12, to conduct provincial consultations regarding the newly drafted curriculum, and to receive public inputs and comments, and to screen new textbooks to ensure alignment with the new curriculum, and to propose teacher development programs as well, both for ITE and in-service training. While drafting the new curriculum, the MTT looked at the following aspects that are key and critical: the issue of historiography, archaeology, archival sources, African history, heritage and local history, labor history, issues of language, gender and culture history. Within an overview, as they review the curriculum for grades 4 to 9, the team ensured that they build skills and concepts within the grade and across the grades. They ensure that there is creation of an awareness of a range of available resources with regards to sources that should be appreciated in mother tongue, in history, and the use of technology. Moreover, that we are introducing archaeology in the new curriculum. Encourage the exploration of pre-colonial past, as we indicated that the pre-colonial past had to be reintroduced back into the curriculum. Introduction of oral traditions and folklore, e.g. Diboko, Izithakazelo, that should ground the new curriculum. We talked about for grounding archaeology as well. In the FET phase, that is in grades 10 to 12, we speak of reintroduction to learners to the key concepts of historical evidence, as well as focus on oral traditions. Also here we talk about pre-colonial history, that is quite very important, as in the current form of the curriculum, it's not there at all. So the team felt that this is quite critical, that it must be brought back into the curriculum. Issues of archaeology and paleontology were also emphasized and foregrounded. Focus on world history and global history. The issue of ensuring that the new curriculum should instill within the learners global and continental African-centered historical consciousness as we build this global citizen that will be dealing with the new history. And they ensured that they use a mixed approach wherein they use chronology or they follow chronology, as well as in some instances where chronology is not possible, they will use some themes, group themes together. This slide is more about highlighting the work of the MTT around 2021, the work of the MTT around 2022. This slide here highlights the progress that is made up to so far by the MTT. They did finish the first draft of the curriculum that we spoke about as we looked at the key aspects that they looked into. And what they did with in this slide here, it's highlighted that various provinces were consulted. We can indicate that the first 3 provinces that were consulted were Western Cape, Northern Cape, and Eastern Cape, and they were followed by Gauteng and Northwest. And who were the attendees in these meetings as they consult within this newly drafted curriculum? GET Social Sciences subject advisors, FET History subject advisors, representative of lead teachers, provincial officials were there as well, provincial union reps were there as well, officials from heritage institutions, as well as history lecturers from Department of Education and Department of History from higher education institutions to ensure that at least they give inputs into this first draft of the newly drafted curriculum. The impressions and inputs received up to so far, as people saw this first draft within the education sector, they welcomed the new draft. And they did highlight to say, although it looks exciting, it really calls for the department to ensure that the teacher development is going to be rigorous, more especially that there are new key aspects that have been brought into the picture, issues of archaeology that they've been brought in. They also highlighted that in some areas, there might be an overkill by the ministerial task team. Now they need to revisit and look at the issue of content overload, where it's possible that some topics can be reduced so that they can begin to be palatable to the learners and doable for teachers and learners as well. The last 4 provinces that were visited were Free State, Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and Mpumalanga. Still same attendees requesting inputs from them as well. And nearly the same impressions were exhibited and were shared by these attendees towards the MTT. And we must indicate that the MTT took the inputs and they had a session between June and September where they consolidated and tried to infuse, where possible, some of the comments received and inputs received from the team and from the officials of the department in various provinces, all the 9 provinces in this regard. This slide highlights more of teacher development. It does indicate that as the new history curriculum is not a tinkering, but it shows a radical overhaul. Therefore, it will require professional development of existing history teachers, more especially in their content knowledge, as we indicated that there is new topics that have been brought in, such as pre-colonial past, as well as archaeology. Now, it means that content knowledge will have to be mediated to the teachers. Also on the issues of pedagogy, that is quite very important, and language and archaeology as well. And that will mean that overall, both in initial and teacher education, it will be very, very important that we collaborate with various higher education institution departments, such as Department of History, History Education, Archaeology, and the languages to work together to ensure that this new history curriculum becomes a success. Next steps for the ministerial task team in terms of their work, they still have to present a formal report to the minister and the deputy minister, as well as to the DG, regarding the work that has been completed thus far. Before this work is submitted to Umalusi for appraisal, and therefore followed by the gazetting for public inputs and comments, because at all times, after we are finished with a curriculum document or a policy document, before it's declared policy, we must consult widely with the public domain to receive inputs and areas where they can be improved. And after that, there will be consolidation of public inputs received and then resubmission to Umalusi for approval this time. And as soon as Umalusi gives it a thumbs up, then the document will be now gazetted for approval as policy, as the new history policy. As soon as we have the system has a new history policy, then it will mean that we need to call for screening of new textbooks as aligned according to the new history curriculum. And therefore, teacher development will follow and then prepare the system for implementation overall in terms of the newly drafted history curriculum. Chairperson, let me take this opportunity to thank the members of the Portfolio Committee. That's the report on history. Thank you.
Thank you, Ntate Rakwate. Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable Minister and Deputy Minister and colleagues. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, those are the two presentations from the team. And just to add here on the history one, that obviously we would still need to be given the feedback from the MTT so that then we will advise the committee on the steps forward on the matter. So this was just a progress report on our side on where that work currently is. Chair, I thought if you wouldn't mind, whether the DM can just do a quick closing before we take some questions.
That is fine, Minister. DM can come in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, I must show my face, but I will quickly take it off. Chairperson, thank you very much. And indeed, this is a presentation from the Department of both infrastructure and the history. Minister indicated clearly that infrastructure is a moving target. We know that currently we are faced with new demands from the cities, towns, as well as metros, because people are flooding to where there are economic activities, which the DG has correctly alluded to. As we try to bridge the gap in the remote areas, people are moving from there. And in many cases, it does not only happen in the Eastern Cape. Everywhere, even in the Eastern Cape, the flooding of people is not only directed to Western Cape. They also flood to East London, to your Gqeberha, to where there are your Queenstown. People are moving closer to towns. And now it gives a huge pressure on new infrastructure, school infrastructure in the towns everywhere, whether it's Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, all the provinces, people are moving from the Eilalini to the towns. That's where now most of the pressure is. Like Gauteng, for example, they were talking that now around Johannesburg and the surrounding Ekurhuleni, they need 60 schools, 60. And that can tell that it's a serious challenge. And the fact that the grant has been directed to provinces is another challenge, because as we're implementing at national level, we'll have an eye-bird's view to look where are the dire situations, then we zoom in there. But now, if it goes to provinces, with its conditions and everything, it's not easy for provinces to implement to cover all the backlogs. But with the monitoring of the department, close monitoring to the departments, and also by the portfolio committee to help the department in monitoring if provinces do spend in infrastructure, because some provinces, they don't spend share. They just don't spend because the rural provinces, for them to attract the relevant professionals is not easy. So that's why you find that professionals are congested in the urban areas than in the rural areas. So the rural provinces suffer that. That's why most of the time when we had to direct money, we had to take it from rural provinces to urban provinces because their implementation of the project is with speed. Then, but as we come closer, and we will have to, because I think education, basic education, is sufficiently covered, will go down to provinces and help provinces. And our monitoring should be at least on a monthly basis, that we sit down with provinces, we see where they are spending their backlog, are they address the renovations and maintenance, because the bulk of the budget now is pushed to maintenance. So we hope and believe that we will be able to help provinces to give this service to our people. On the history, Chair, what we can say is that after the dawn of democracy in South Africa, most of the people indicated, and not only people, sectors of the society indicated that we need to teach history as a compulsory subject. That has always been a call by so many civil society and sectors in the communities that let's put history as a compulsory subject to create, because remember we used to call it New South Africa, to create a cohort of the new South Africans to understand where they come from, where they are, to address all the issues of the social cohesion. Then, because there were so many priorities in the sector, education, even aligning the department to be one department was one of those. Remember, we come from 18 education departments to bring them together. So the priorities were so many, and the attention was diversified and all over, that we need to address this, where we come from. A girl child was not allowed to do math, science, and technology. We needed to support a girl child, we needed to support this, just to bring everything into one education department. So that history, that call for history to be a compulsory subject, not to say that it was neglected, but it remained behind. So that's why in 2015, the then minister called for the ministerial ministerial task team. The ministerial task team looked at the possibility of making history compulsory, especially at the FET level, because it's only compulsory from grade 1 up to grade 9. So wanted to make it compulsory grade 10, 11, and 12, because we believe that at that age, they are a bit matured. And because we're promoting the STEM subjects, it made many learners to stop even taking history as a subject. They chose the STEM subjects because that's where we were directing them to do, because we wanted to open the STEM subjects to all the learners in South Africa. That's when the intake of history was reduced at that time. So now, if we want to make it compulsory, then what do we do? Because we cannot build a society that does not understand itself. And patriotism will be something too far-fetched from them to understand, because they will think, the shape of South Africa is an international in itself. So they will think that, no, everyone can come, everyone can do this, everyone. But we want them to understand their South Africa, to understand their heritage, to understand where they come from. This is what the compulsory of history is intending to. So we believe that the portfolio committee will help the department to push this matter into its successful implementation. Because now the recommendation, they don't help because they just say it's a work in progress, but that work in progress needs to be speeded up. Next year, will mark 10 years of the Interministerial Committee. So 10 years without the clear fruits is not working. So from now, we need to, that in our lifetime and in our term as this portfolio committee, we can push to make sure that the children of South Africa do get history as a compulsory subject, because the history that we were taught, me and you, Chair, but I know you are younger than me, but still then you were taught the Western history. We are not taught the African history. It's a history that must be based on our soil, Africa, as well as South Africa. We must know ourselves, and that will put a sense of patriotism to all the South Africans, and especially the future South Africans. They must know themselves, and they must know that South Africa belongs to them, all of them, black and white, no matter what, as long as you were born, your parents were born in South Africa, you were born in South Africa, you have all the papers that you are a South African, you must know your history. You must know where you come from. That's what we, the minister and I, trying to push, that with the help of the portfolio committee, we can try, because if you push us, we'll be able to be pushed and do the work and report from time to time. We cannot wait for until 10 years to give a progress report. We must report from time to time. Where are you now? What are you doing now? In terms of the teacher development, where are you? In terms of the resource package, the curriculum, where are you? What needs to be done? Then you are able to monitor us based on the clear program of action as to what is it that you must do. I think if we can take it in that way, we will be able to implement this noble task for our country, South Africa, and Africa in general. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. And thank you to the Minister and the DG for all the presentations. Honorable members, we've received the presentations. I am going to note hands that want to engage with the presentations. I am going to allow Honorable Mashabela to engage first. Honorable Mashabela did send me a message that she is struggling with network where she is, and she is requesting to go first, to be the first one to interact with the presentations. So on the platform, I am going to note hands. So it's going to be Honorable Mashabela, Honorable Christians. That's the hand I'm seeing. And Honorable Jordan, Honorable Nuber, Honorable Low, Honorable... Okay, is it Honorable Melanie Buys? And yeah, in that order.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me start with the history report. I've got only a few issues here. What are the estimated costs of implementing this policy, including training materials and resources? Are schools equipped with adequate infrastructure to accommodate the change? How many teachers are currently qualified to teach history? Then on the issue of infrastructure report, how are funds allocated and utilized for infrastructure projects? What steps are being taken to ensure transparency and accountability in financial management? How is the department addressing issues related to irregular expenditure? Thank you very much, Chair. Because of the issue of the network here where I am, I think maybe I'll be out at any time.
That is noted, Honorable Mashabela. Honorable Christians.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll also start with the history. I think it's very exciting that this will be included in the curriculum going forward. I think it's something that has been on the table for a very long time. And I know that a lot of people will be excited to see what kind of changes will be implemented in the history curriculum. And having said that, Chair, I just think we need a few questions of clarity. I know it hasn't been finalized completely, but what changes exactly are proposed to the current history curriculum? And having said that, which grades will be affected? Will it be only in the FET phase, or will it be the lower grades as well? And then also, Chair, how will controversial and sensitive historical topics be addressed in the curriculum, taking note of the grades there as well? And then, because it is a subject that is long overdue and something that should be speedily implemented, what will be the timeline of rolling out this compulsory subject within the history curriculum? And I would also like to know, Chair, about public consultation and stakeholder engagement, whether there has been any input with regard to stakeholders, including educators, parents, etc., in regard to this policy, or is it something that will still be rolled out, something that will still is still on the cards for the future? And then also with regard to the curriculum itself, how will our diverse histories and narratives be reflected in this curriculum, considering that we are such a diverse nation? And then with regard to bias and politicization of the subject, what measures will be put in place to prevent this from happening during the course of teaching history as a subject? And having asked all those questions, Chair, I just want to reiterate that it is an exciting proposal, and we look forward to what this particular part of the curriculum holds in for South Africa in the future. And then, Chair, with regard to the previous presentation by the DG, I think the only thing that I really find concerning is the fact of maintenance and sustainability in our school infrastructure. So, I mean, maintaining school infrastructure post-construction, I think, is very essential to long-term sustainability. And even during our oversight, we saw that although construction was great and schools were built, etc., that schools were unable to maintain post-construction, to maintain their structures. So to the DG and the team, what strategies do you have in place to ensure that the ongoing maintenance of school infrastructure takes place? And how are schools being supported, more importantly, in this regard? I know the DG spoke about oversight and so on, but especially how are they being supported to deal with ongoing maintenance? And then also with regard to monitoring and evaluation, we know that this is key in assessing the impact of infrastructure improvements. So what systems are in place to monitor the progress and quality of current infrastructure projects, and how is the department currently assessing the impact of these improvements on educational outcomes specifically? And then the DG also spoke about the ASIDI and SAFE programs, and I would just like to know what milestones have been reached in these ASIDI and SAFE initiative programs. We note that there have been delays and challenges in completing the infrastructure projects in various provinces. So what obstacles have hindered the timely completion of these infrastructure projects, and what measures are in place to address these and mitigate these towards the end of Q4? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Christians. Honorable Jordan.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. My questions are also related to history. Chairperson, though I recognize the importance of fostering an understanding of the past and promoting critical thinking and understanding societal issues, Chair, I'm wondering what career pathways or opportunities will studying history create for learners, since this will not be an elective for them in the further in the FET phase. I think it's important for learners to be able to choose whatever interests and career aspirations they might have, and this is a critical stage in their schooling in which such decisions are made. Chairperson, since the life orientation subject appears to be taken away in the FET phase and replaced with history as a compulsory subject, and the department can please correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding in that from their presentation, what will be the implication of removing LO from the FET phase, since this subject had the intention to equip learners with essential life skills and promote holistic development? Then, Chairperson, my last question is on resource constraints. And I thought we would see a report on a cost analysis that might also have been done for the implementation of history as a compulsory subject, especially in light of budget constraints that we're currently experiencing, Chair. How will the department fund the various investments like training teachers, developing materials, and restructuring the curriculum that would be necessary to effectively manage the implementation of history as a compulsory subject? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jordan. Honorable Ngobe.
Thank you, Chair Ngabingelela. Thank you for the presentation. Under the presentation infrastructure, the improvement school infrastructure, especially in disadvantaged school, will improve not only learning process, but also their safety in school property. The report indicates that out of 9 provinces, only 3 provinces were visited by the DSG in a total of 4,133. While the visit by infrastructure team is reported to be 888. I do understand the process made by department in terms of infrastructure. E.g., for example, running water system and electricity system. My question is, since there is a water crisis in the country, what plans does the department have in order to supply water in school? Has the department considered into getting a borehole for water? The second question is, electricity crisis in many schools in township and the rural areas. Electricity system are in place, but it's not work. Did the department consider to put in place solar power panel? One will not leave the issue of the security because most schools in far. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ngube. Honorable Law.
Thanks very much, Chair. Let me welcome the presentation. Let me also welcome your opening remarks. I think it is encouraging to hear about the progress in the school infrastructure build program. However, a detailed breakdown of the audit results will be beneficial, Chair, to understand the specific areas of success and those requiring further attention, because transparency in the audit findings will help us assess the overall impact on the learner safety and the educational quality so that we're able to be content and steadfast as a committee. When coming to water and sanitation, I think it is adequate that it is fundamental for us to promote a safe and a healthy learning environment, Chair, which seeks to, as the presentation highlights, the improvement. It is also crucial to ensure that all schools, particularly I will always say the marginalized, have reliable access to these essential services. I'm saying the rural area, the rural schools and the marginalized schools, mainly because they are the ones that normally struggle with water, not mainly from the department point of view, but what municipalities with regard to issues of access to water and the issues of that we are facing as government. I think it's essential that we work on that and then we continue to monitor the maintenance and we put in place plans where we engage other stakeholders on key issues of your public works, where we can engage them, or agriculture on other means of making sure that there's access to water in schools. And let me commend the department. I think we've been, ever since we came from the 6th administration, the department is committed in eradicating the Pit-Latrines, and they reported to us to say they are achieving their target there in making sure that they are responding to the need. I think they must keep it up and they must work on that, and they must also how the DG has presented on the state of the art. It should also be state of the art in our schools, and we should also maybe re-emphasize on our curriculums to reincorporate to teach learners to also take care of their own belongings, because sometimes we renew, we maintain. At the same time, the same learners are the ones who are vandalizing. So, but I'm quite content, and I hope that by the end of by next year we won't have that issue of Pit-Latrines. We'll have an issue that says we are done, we are just moving in, improving the infrastructure and everything. Now, the most important part, Chair, which I think I've got some few questions that I want to ask, and then I'll move to the history being compulsory. My questions are based on based on this. Can you provide specific stats on the presentation of schools currently lacking access to water and sanitation? And then what measures are in place to expedite improvements in the areas? And then how does DBE plan to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the infrastructure improvements, and so that we are able to know that? So I want to get into the most important part, which is the part of the history being compulsory. I think, Chair, I for one want to believe 2017, 2024, it's a huge gap. There would have been a lot of work done. And I think it is imperative when you speak about that, one should ask, why did the department take so long to implement the report? 2018 report, and then maybe we should check, maybe is there any form of sabotage from the officials? I think in terms of that, I'm saying this because we can't have COVID as an excuse to implement such. And then if you go through the presentation, you will realize that history has long been sidelined in the curriculum. I'm saying this because I've went through the presentation, I've made my research, and as a result, it was biasness of the administrators that we have faced. So having to say that, I don't think we need to go there and go and open it up. I think history as the importance of a comprehensive and inclusive history curriculum cannot be overstated in this particular time, especially in fostering a sense of identity and belonging among learners, Chair. The current curriculum have been criticized for its Eurocentric focus, and I'm happy that the DG has made a highlight on what's going to feature into that, so that we are able to often speak on key issues where we come from. We need a diverse historians of Africa, of South Africa, and what would have happened in that, so that we are able to address issues that ensure that history subjects plays an important role in the system of education. So I've got few recommendations for us to move forward, having to go the ministerial testing report that is progress. And I think firstly, it is essential to revise the history curriculum to adopt an Afrocentric perspective, Chair. And this shift will not only reflect the two historical narratives of Africa, but also empower learners by providing them with a more relevant and reliable educational experience. So the curriculum should celebrate African achievements, cultures, contribution to world history, thereby fostering pride and identity among learners. So it's important to strengthen the curriculum. And secondly, Chair, the Department of Basic Education must prioritize the reintroduction of the history subjects in all schools where it has been discontinued. I'm saying this because it becomes quite imperative we start there to say maybe a curriculum should be taken out by January 2025 to say all the schools that could have discontinued history, they should make sure that they bring it back with a matter of priority. And then mathematics in schools And then the history should be reinstated to ensure that all learners have access to this fundamental subject, mathematics and history, as they've been compulsory. So I think it is important, it's crucial for us to have such, so that we reintroduce history in all of the schools, starting from January 2025. It will be a progress, because there's a report. And I think the report was just delayed in a matter of technicalities. And I think there were processes that has unfolded. And I think that the third one should be, the department should consider making history a compulsory course subject for learners who require historical knowledge for future career paths, for learners who seek to understand history for social cohesion purposes. Its integration into the life orientation subject can be beneficial. So it should be integrated also into LO chair. This approach will prevent an increase in the number of subjects offered, while still ensuring that learners receive the historical education necessary for personal and societal development. So it is important we should make it a course subject, also history. And then I think we should, in closing, we should also establish a clear time frames to ensure accountability, effective implementation of the above recommendation. I could have said earlier, I still believe we would have been sabotaged by officials who were just too biased towards a particular narrative. But to cut against such, I propose that there should be clear time frames, Chair, where the department should be held accountable for the progress in this area, with regular assessments to evaluate the efficiency of the changes made and setting the time frame. So I want us to agree that we should set clear time frames in these implementations by saying that by next day, June 2025, we should have a clear indication as to what's going to happen. But for those schools that could have not had history, they should being compulsory. I think we should have a circular that says that all schools should bring it back and reintroduce back space. Having to say that, Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Law. I see there is a hand of Melanie Buys.
Yes.
Can you please introduce yourself, because we might not know the name as members of this committee? Yes.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm Melanie Buys. I'm from the Solidarity School Support Center, and we work a lot with curriculum and with overall support of the infrastructure. So I have some mention on the infrastructure that I'd like to make, but I think what I have to say is very much in line.
But wait. So the portfolio committee meeting, it's reserved for members of parliament. So if you were a member of parliament,
invited to be part of the portfolio committee, so
as observers,
that's why. Only as observers. So I might not.
Yes,
okay.
As observers. But we do open up for different organizations if they want to interact with the portfolio committee on specific issues. So they write, and then we create time, we create space, and we listen to them. If they've got different other views or comprehensive presentation that they believe will be informative to the portfolio committee, we do give space for that. So that will assist you. If you really have that a presentation that you think will be informative, you can write to the portfolio committee and request audience, and we'll do that. We've done that in the past before with other organizations. But with portfolio committee meetings, it's strictly members of parliament that are allowed to engage with the presentations. I apologize.
Thank you, then I'll observe further.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ngube, is that a follow-up? Or is it another hand? Because we had given you an opportunity.
Thank you, Chair. No, I have a few questions about under the history subjects.
Okay.
Yes. On the history subjects, the Department of Basic Education indicated that there will be budget cuts with the department. My question: how to deal with the shortage of history teachers, considering compulsory history mandate will require more requirements of teachers who specialize with history? And what are the strategies will be utilized in terms of paradigm shifts related to curriculum transformation? Thank you, sir. Those two questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Ngube. I think for me, it's very few observations from your from the presentation of the department. One which I would want to ask both the minister and the DM. One would have really wanted a situation where we are clear that out of the 22,000, I think it's 589 public schools we have. Would have loved an idea that, look, out of this number, we've got 800 schools that still have issues of water, backlog in terms of adequate water supply or a constant water supply. And then you then break it down. In this 800, we've got 600 that rely on rain harvested water. We've got 200 that rely on boreholes, and these boreholes are not reliable in the dry season. And of course, given the climate change and the fact that we are also having issues of rain, that will give us a picture. So I'm just trying to say, Minister, the additional information you've given us in terms of the work you've done in monitoring the buildings, look, it really does not still give me, seated here, a picture of the progress made to this far. And I'm saying this because, you know, we are one country that is very sensational. So everything that is reported, everything that comes out, sometimes there is serious sensation put to it. The status of schooling infrastructure is a disaster in the country. And look, that concerns you as a person who is parliamentarian, who is responsible for ensuring that the executive provides education. And you then need to understand to what extent is this disaster that is reported. So there has been a lot of sound bites that speak to the state of infrastructure of the schools in the country. And I had thought that because we can't call all provinces and say, look, let's discuss infrastructure, because of course there's a lot of competing responsibilities, both for the department and provinces. We had thought that perhaps as part of the additional information, break this thing down for us at DG. And I think Honorable Mlo mentioned it. Break it down to say, out of the 22,589 public schools, exactly how many schools still do not have consistent or water provision, electricity provision. And break it down to this number of schools is because they don't have electricity provision because of there was never electrification of that school, or because they are unable to pay the municipal bills, or it's because there are issues with electricity supply in that area. So we've gotten an understanding, because when we've got that comprehensive understanding, we are able to gauge and apprise your interventions, and we're able to say, yes, these interventions actually speak to the problems that have been identified, you know. So I do hope that we get that kind of a breakdown. And also that breakdown then says, out of these 22,589 schools, this is the number of schools that still don't have libraries. These are the number of schools that still don't have laboratories. You can even break it down into provinces. And we heard that from yourselves, and we don't come and say, this is information we get from media, social media, or media, print media. It's information that comes from yourself, because this is information you can get from the provinces. And we then say, based on this picture, these interventions that are proposed by the department, or that the department has been undertaking, they are really adequate to deal with the current situation. So I think that for me would be important. But the other thing is, Minister, I'm hoping that I know the department might have done this at a certain stage, because correctly put by yourself, Minister, in many platforms, that the challenges of the status of schooling in the country. Somebody has unmuted. Can Elijah mute their gadget? Thank you. So you've said that the challenges of the schooling system in many of our area in the country are going to be resolved through cooperative work, through collaboration as different departments. And I'm actually wondering if the department would be willing to do some infrastructure commitment roadshows provincially, where they say in this province we've met with all the departments, and these are the plans of the province in terms of their own allocation, and these are our plans in terms of our own interventions, and all key stakeholders have committed to assisting to fast track this work. And of course, to a certain level, is the department willing to, or has the department used the district development model to also fast track this work, that collaboration of different stakeholders in government to start with, but also the private sector. The private sector in areas, for example, I was in Limpopo where we were told that there is 2 schools that are going to be built by a mine. And this is some of the things that you say, this is where you bring all the stakeholders, including the private sector, to say, we've got this kind of a bedlock. These are our challenges. How do we collaborate and work together? And we will be really looking forward to the department having some form of, even if you don't name it such, but having some form of a infrastructure commitment, a kind of a drive, where you have all stakeholders, province by province, who commit, and there's time frames and there's timelines, so that we really register some progress on this infrastructure backlogs. The second issue on that kind of a map or a comprehensive maybe breakdown that we want you to share with us, Minister and DM, and this was mentioned by the DM, it's that those migration trends. You might need to really give us an idea of the migration trends, the current number of schools that you are merging, and the schools that are no longer going to be utilized, the schools that you know there is unutilized, or there is a number of classrooms or blocks that are not used, and these are newly built schools, and this is new built infrastructure. And I want us to have that kind of information, because there is a conversation with other portfolio committees in Parliament that are engaging on how we need to reinvest and stimulate economic activity in rural villages, so that this migration, this move from rural villages and rural communities to the cities, which are becoming densely populated, and they are creating all other sorts of crises, because then they demand human settlement. They require there is a lot of multiplier effects that these trends in migration have. And education, basic education, as you've correctly put, DM, it's not excluded. So it will be important for us to understand how these migration trends have affected and are gradually and speedily creating white elephants in terms of the investment that we've made in infrastructure development in these areas. And this is going to assist us as a portfolio committee to contribute to that discussion from a basic education point of view. So I think that is going to be important. The other issue is, which is Honorable Christian spoke about this, Minister DM.
I don't seem to hear the chair.
I've lost her too.
Chairperson, we have lost you. I see that your mic is on and you are still on the platform, but we cannot hear you. Chairperson is now off the platform. If we just allow for 1 minute, I'm sure she's trying to reconnect. Apologies for that. Honorable Lowe, if I may request that you maybe continue until Chairperson has been able to reconnect. Honorable Lowe.
Okay, no, thanks. Yes, the chair was still trying to get to submit questions and comments, and I think I could have done mine. And the item on the agenda was to get response from the department. And then I think as the chair reconnects, she will therefore maybe submit questions for the sake of progress. Can we maybe immediately move to the response, because all members could have asked their questions of clarity and made their comments. So I hereby give it back to the Minister, DG, to respond so that we can move for the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lowe. I will handle some of the questions and then I'm sure then the DM or the DG will come in. So I think it's just important there were a number of questions that came through regarding the issue around history and the ministerial task team. The reason why I would caution members us getting into the details of how will this be done, which grades will this affect, will this be simply a curriculum change, will we be making history compulsory? The reason why I would like to caution against delving into those is that the DM and myself need to be appraised by the ministerial task team themselves on the findings, so that we can be sure not to jump the gun. Because if we now make commitments here in this meeting, then you would be justified in saying, well, okay, so where are you with this? And I personally, as a new minister in this space, would like to be given an opportunity to look at the research that has been done, looking at what CAPS can have to have the history included and given greater prominence in our curriculum, particularly South African history. We also have to make sure that we balance this out with the needs of our learners, and making sure that, and another member has asked, things like textbooks provision, teacher training, how is it going to be infused in the curriculum? Will it be made compulsory? The curriculum and the curriculum rollout itself. So I would rather we come back. I mean, the purpose of the presentation today really was to give the members, we still need to tie up particular. I would be given an opportunity with the DM and the DG and the ministerial task team to hear their findings and then make proposals that will come to the committee, that will be gazetted as the team has indicated, that will be subject to public participation. So I would like us to perhaps steer away from asking for specific details, since the work is not complete as yet. And then there were a number of questions that would be just my response with regards to some of the questions, because some of the questions were very detailed, colleagues. There were the estimated cost of making history compulsory, how many teachers are now qualified. And so all of these things are things we are unable to answer because the work is yet to be completed. So I would beg the indulgence of the committee to say, can we note the progress that the MTT has done? And then once the work has been completed, the report is in, and we have a good sense of how and what the recommendations look like and how they will feed into the system, then we can come back and answer some of those questions, because a lot of the questions are really, really important, but in my view, we would be able to answer them sufficiently at the moment. And then the chair had asked a question around a breakdown of schools. We certainly do have that information. Of course, what we tried to do with the infrastructure report was to try and firstly make sure that we give a good sense of where we come from, and then also give a good sense of some of the things that we need to do when we are on site. But I agree with the chair that we have to lead the charge in giving concrete and reliable data as it pertains to the infrastructure backlog that we have when it comes to pit toilets in particular. So the department, I'm sure, has taken note on the proposed structure that the committee would like to see on the breakdown per province. We certainly can do that. We've got that information, and we certainly can provide that to the committee. And then the other questions were relating to support that would be given to schools or in provinces. Members, as I indicated earlier, because of the nature of now and the structure of the grant that we will have from the next financial year, the role that DBE will play is very much around monitoring, supporting provinces, oversight on provinces. And so some of the suggestions that we've heard around, using the district development model, going into doing an infrastructure roadshow, relying on other departments for a multi-pronged approach. Absolutely, that is certainly something that I'm of the belief that we ought to be doing. We've already started to try and craft an MOU with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, because of course we want to tap into some of their budget, we want to tap into some of their expertise. We've also really developed some good relationships in the space with some corporate and social partners who are also helping us with trying to meet this target. And then I must just say, before I give over to the DG and the DM, that I think, members, it's important to clarify between two figures. The one is the backlog that was identified in 2018 when the SAFE project started, and that it pertains strictly to the issue around pit toilets. So it was identified just under 4,000 of these infrastructure, of these toilets were found. And then the department and its partners and provincial departments started working hard to clear that backlog. But once that backlog is cleared, which we're hoping to clear by next year, it does not mean that we will never find a pit toilet in South Africa. Up-to-date data and a targeted approach to make sure when these structures come up, we go find them, we go replace them, and we go and seal them. So it's important to differentiate between, one, the infrastructure backlog, and two, the continuous work as a department that we will always have to do to make sure that our schools are places of safety. So I want to make that, I want to differentiate and make that differentiation, because when you say to them, we want to eradicate all pit toilets, and they tell you, you will never, there are pit toilets everywhere that you are unaware of. Of course. That's why we're also dealing with the issue of reliability of data. How do we get real life data that we can see, that we can monitor? But our first port of call now is to eradicate the backlog that was identified. And then we take it to the next step of ensuring that where we find pit toilets, we will eradicate them, make sure that there's proper sanitation in place. So, Chair, Acting Chair, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I have given some direction regarding the history questions, so that to say we will come back to you. But if you can give us some time to be able to thrash that out properly, so that we can come to you with the concrete proposal, and also just to give Dr. Mhaule and I an opportunity to engage with the MTT and on their findings. DG, is there anything on your side?
Thank
Minister,
you.
I wanted to come in before DG so that she would just summarize.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, to Chair, my apologies for imposing myself. I want to agree with the Minister that on the implementation costs by Honorable Mashabela and all the other resource constraints, report, analysis, all those were still going to come. And to answer Jordan specifically, LO is very important. It's a very important subject that we cannot take it away, especially at the lowest grade until grade 9. It's very, because that's where choices has to be made, and all the other life orientation or whatever processes that the young ones need to know. Even at grade 12, grade 10, 11, and 12, there is history. It's just that if we want to make it compulsory, it's just an addition, and it will be an addition at grade 10, 11, and 12. It's not a changing of the curriculum that is a restructured. It's a subject that is there. It's just that it's expanded, that all learners must do, just like we did with mathematics. That mathematics was given at a very low scale, but we expanded it to be taken by majority of the learners. So I think Minister is correct. We are still going to come up with the timelines that this is the proper report and the recommendations, and this is how we intend taking the process forward, and the financial implications, if it will have financial implications. So it's not a change. The curriculum will be given as is, with the addition of history in those grades 10, 11, and 12. So I think most of the questions are around that, as Minister has correctly alluded to. So just to answer on behalf of the DG, I know the DG will allude further on this one, that from Honorable Ngube, that DG will always mention 3 provinces. That's where ASIDI and SAFE. And in the presentation, it was indicated that the provinces that benefited from ASIDI and SAFE, it's Eastern Cape #1, KwaZulu-Natal, and Limpopo. These are the 3 provinces. That's why when he mentions the visiting of projects, he will always mention the 3 provinces. But when he visits provinces for whatever responsibility of the government, of the Department of Basic Education, he visits all 9 provinces. Whether it's exams, whether it's winter schools or whatever, extra classes, he monitors them all over the 75 education districts. So yeah, but I know DG will add on this one. DG, I think I'm covered now through your chairperson. The DG can continue now.
You, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Honorable Mashabela, I think DM and Minister have covered the issue of history. We'll come back in the fullness of time to give you more details. As the Minister said, we're just providing work in progress. Once we anticipate implementation, the full cost will be shared. Transparency and accountability will be used to do that. Honorable Dr. Christian, the history curriculum has been covered by the Minister. I'm happy that you are happy about these changes, very positive, and even saying people will be very excited about this. Grades affected, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's grade 4 to 12 that we're looking at is grade 4 to 12, and Mr. Rakwate can just correct me. Yes, as the report indicated, issues of sensitivity, because we've got a diverse history, the reflection of that history must be navigated quite carefully, and I fully agree with your sentiments there. And the minister also indicated that once we are ready, the plan will be crafted, timelines will be included in the plan, and you'll be one of the major stakeholders that we'll be consulting with as we forge ahead in the implementation of the plan. Consultation, you have seen in the report how far the consultation has happened, but even when we come to implementation, the same will be followed. Maintenance and sustainability, Honorable Christians, you are absolutely right. And I'm going to respond to other questions that were asked even later. Honorable Chair, can you still hear me?
We
Yes,
can hear
DG, we
you.
hear
I don't
you.
know who's the new chair, but we can hear you.
I appointed myself.
Yes, there shouldn't be vacuum.
Okay. No, I was saying the issue of maintenance and sustainability, you are absolutely right. And several things that we are trying to do. In the EIG, we've now said 60% of the EIG must go towards maintenance and upkeep of schools, because we can't continue to build schools that we are unable to maintain. So I was even saying to HEADCOM yesterday, which is finishing today, I am considering to increase the percentage even further, because some of the schools that we rebuild is because they are run down based on our inability to maintain them regularly. So I fully agree with you. That's why we have put in measures. I never thought in my entire life that would have to train people to clean their own facilities. I thought it's simple logic that when you use a facility, you have to keep it clean. If you use it, you keep it better or the same as you found it. If it's in good condition, you leave it the same as you found it. But it does appear that this is not common sense that applies to everybody. Now we have to train people. Now we have to redirect funds towards maintenance and upkeep. We even have to come up with categories that are encouraging schools to keep facilities maintained well and to keep them clean. We've now included it in the Excellence Awards, District Excellence Awards. These are some of the measures that we put in place to encourage all schools to maintain their facilities and keep them up to date. And I think it answers also to strategies we have for the upkeep. The support that we provide to schools have indicated that 60% that goes towards maintenance and upkeep of schools is part of supporting schools. The monitoring and evaluation is done by provincial district officials plus DBE officials. We go out and monitor not only on construction, but that's why we were even able to share pictures to show vandalism, to show poor maintenance and upkeep of our facilities. We monitor that. Milestones and challenges. Milestones are, of course, the figures that we provided in the presentation of things that we have achieved. The challenges are many. This terrain is littered with challenges. I've indicated issues of capacity of implementing agents, the data that is not reliable from schools, from districts and provinces. And may I also, Minister, also take this opportunity to indicate that the only reliable audit, the only way to come with a breakdown that Honorable Maimela requested for an honorable law, which I think we should be able to bring it. It's when we do condition assessment. Condition assessment is to go school by school, not send a questionnaire to a school principal or send district officials to go and check what is available there. Send experts, asset by asset, to give you status. What is available there? We've done this condition assessment many years ago. We've not done it for many years. When we approached National Treasury and we said, we want to top slice the EIG to do condition assessment, they refused. Condition assessment can be properly done by experts of infrastructure who go asset by asset and give you chapter and verse of what obtains in your infrastructure. Schools, when you ask them whether they've got water, they say yes, but they depend on rain harvested water. And that's not what we are looking for. We want to find out whether they've got clean, safe, running water, not rain harvested water. And that can be done by experts who can distinguish between rain harvested water and clean, purified water, which is safe for consumption. And that can be done through condition assessment. And that's the best way and the most objective way to do it, because we can't even rely on the data that we get from schools, from districts, and even from provinces. I thought I must just say that. So the data that we can give you in 7 days or 10 days, it's not reliable, but we can provide it to you. And the only reliable data is when condition assessment has been done by independent people, as I've said, who go school by school and give us that information, which was done many years ago. It is a huge exercise. It's a big project, but it would be worth it. It would be a huge investment for the country for many years to come. And I think we did that when I was still in the Northwest, before I even became HOD in the Northwest, many, many years ago. So I think that is due. We need to have a condition assessment for all schools. Honorable Jordan, I think the issue of career path, history offers many opportunities for careers. Journalism is one of them. And you can also become a teacher of history. You can do many things. I don't have this off the cuff now, but it offers opportunities to many careers. But remember, those learners who want to take history to afford them skills for careers that they want to follow, it doesn't seem to be a problem as such. The problem is social cohesion. And can I also clarify, DM, where the impression was created that we're getting rid of LO? No. LO contributes to the holistic development of the child. We are saying a section of the LO can accommodate history for those who are not taking history to get skills that are required for careers that they want to follow. But you can embed it in LO as part of the major sections of the LO for social cohesion. Social cohesion is part of the holistic development of the child. And it can live side by side with aspects of the life orientation, which are intended to take care of the holistic development of the child. Budget and resource constraints for history, I think Minister and DM adequately and eloquently dealt with that. Honorable Ncube, the issue of the 3 provinces, Deputy Minister has explained exceptionally well. All 9 provinces have benefited from ACD and the EIG. But provinces that benefited more than any other province is Eastern Cape, is KZN, and Limpopo. And the reason is because I think I should have included the map in the presentation to show where these unsafe toilets were located in the country. The main concentration was in KZN, Eastern Cape, and Limpopo. That's why I mentioned the 3. But we monitor all the 9, monitor all 9 of them. We don't only focus on the 3. Thank you, Deputy Minister, for clarifying that. Plans in place about water. Provinces submit their plans. I think it's called B5. every year. It's called B5, where they indicate projects that they are going to deliver, and that is considered by DBE. In there, we insist priorities of water, sanitation, and electricity must be included. We do get them to include them, but I think we can do much better than we have done so far. Boreholes, we do have boreholes, but as I've indicated, schools are not even encouraged anymore to have boreholes because they know that they are not sustainable. In no time, South Africa is one of the 20 countries that are experiencing water scarcity in the world. So in no time, heavy rains, you don't experience them throughout the country. The water table would dry up, and therefore the borehole won't be able to draw water. So we can provide even a list of those schools that have boreholes, and some of them are not utilized anymore. They've dried up. The water table is empty. Solar panels, we had solar panels in schools. They got stolen. They were taken. You put them today, tomorrow they'll be gone. They'll be in the informal settlement. They'll be in other areas where people feel that they need them most. So the issue of solar panels, we have tried it before. It will not work in our schools. Our schools are very vulnerable. People are just going to take them away. Well, Minister addressed the issue of history and the teachers. The issue of paradigm shift, it's about social cohesion. Honorable Law, I've talked to the issue of the audit. I fully agree with you, but we need condition assessment, which I've just spoken to. And we need money. Unfortunately, even the grant that we had is now going away. It's going to be located to form part of the EIG. The best and the most credible and independent audit can be done through condition assessment, which is centralized. We put together a team that can do that, like Department of Education and Training did it before many years ago. And it gave us status of each and every school, every class, whether it's laboratories, whether it's libraries, it gave us everything, that condition assessment. And I think we need to go back to National Treasury to try and talk to them again and check whether they can give us money to do condition assessment. And that will answer issues of the number of schools with water supply and the breakdown that the chair talked about. And even status of schools with water and sanitation. Why taking so long to implement history as a ministerial task team report? I think DM and Minister responded to that. The other issues of restoring history to schools that don't have, we'll go back and reflect on that, like we did with even mathematics and science, schools that discontinued mathematics and science. Clear timeframes for implementation, I think Minister covered that. And the last one, Honorable Minister, DM, and Honorable Chair, and Honorable Members, are issues that were raised by the Honorable Chair. I've dealt with the issue of the audit on the total number of schools of the 22,511. What is the status of water? What is the status of electricity? What is the status of sanitation? What is even the status of maintenance? Libraries, laboratories, conditions assessment is the only way to go. Well, the issue of challenges to resolve, to be resolved through a cooperative means with stakeholders in provinces, and the issue of the district development model will continue to use that, led by the Minister and DM, who are champions of the district development model, and including the issue of the breakdown in the migration trends. Once we've done this condition assessment, including the breakdown in the migration trends and blow by blow, to look at which schools are affected by this, we'll be able to provide that report to you, including the issue of the impact of inward and outward migration for infrastructure investment. DM, I've tried to to cover those that I thought that were not covered. I don't know whether there's anything that we left out which the team can come in handy to cover. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chair, and Honorable members and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. And I just want to apologize. You see, Minister, that issue of ICT as a serious instrument for education provision, it showed me today that I apologize. I got cut off because I'm at home. I'm using my laptop, so I've hotspotted the laptop with my phone. But I did not even check if the phone's battery was adequate. So my battery died, and then I lost all connection. And then I remembered that during my school days, technology was still not a serious part of our curriculum. But I apologize, and I want to thank the committee for continuing and the interim chair that took over. And I am glad that in the responses of the minister, because I got the responses in the DM and the DG, some of the issues that I had raised were included. But as a way forward to the department, I think it would be important, the Minister and DM and DG, for us to see if we can't have a conversation with the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, because when they sanction on, or when they do the decade or what the 10-year reviews, because I know we did one in 2014 and 2024. I don't know the status for now, but I think we might have to have a serious thorough engagement with them on that condition assessment, because I truly believe, DM and Minister, that is very important. It is very important to know exactly what we are dealing with. That backlog that was identified in 2018, it will be very important for us to know the backlog comprehensively in terms of the school infrastructure backlog, so that we're able to say if we are to have if we are to make the impact that we desire, then we need this amount of resources, and these resources can be, they can be sourced in this number of years. And I think that will be important for us as a country to have that kind of an understanding, especially after 30 years of many interventions. We've got to then evaluate, go back and evaluate those interventions vis-a-vis the current. So I think it will be important for us, even as a portfolio committee, at a certain stage, to invite the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation and to say to them, look, we need this information, and we believe that they can assist. There could be some collaboration with this department in terms of resourcing that exercise. So I think that's something that we'll look at. And DM, Minister, and DG, quite frankly, on the maintenance culture, the budget, DG, I think you're going to have to come back to us and speak about that, because it is a huge problem. It's a huge problem to an extent that, one, I don't believe that adequately when we say we need to reskill the schools in terms of just upkeep of the facilities. I think it goes beyond that. I honestly think it goes beyond that. And when you speak about the 60% allocation to maintenance, and I asked myself, does it speak to the number of cleaners that schools have? Because if you go to certain schools and you look at the number of classrooms the school has, the number of learner population they have, and the number of cleaners, you just realize that indeed there is in no way that the school has the capacity to really have an upkeep of the school. In other areas, there is one maintenance guy, and the skills also is an issue. So I really think that you're going to have to, that condition assessment, you're correct, DG, that it will have to incorporate maintenance capacity of the schools, because I don't think there is capacity. I think even if we can reskill, but I don't think there is capacity in terms of either human resource, either the capacity, of course, in terms of the SGP utilizing those funds. I mean, in other schools, you find there's an issue of a roof leak, and when you look at it and you realize that, but this is something that can be maintained. It's not even a huge issue, but of course there is issues of capacity. So I think there's a conversation that we might have to have, and with what we are saying, and I think that's what Honorable Christian was asking about. I think we are saying, Minister, there needs to be, you need to relook at your strategy when it comes to this maintenance culture, infusing maintenance culture. Look at your strategy. Let's look at how to ensure that the maintenance become even part of the performance agreements with principals, with HODs, because I think it's very important. It's going to be very important. One of the crises we have with water is that we've not maintained water infrastructure, and municipalities have not paid attention to it. And I think it will be important that we don't repeat the same mistake as basic education. On the history issues, I think I'm covered, and I'm satisfied with the responses that the department is going to come back. And my understanding of that, the presentation was that the task team made 5 recommendations. And out of the 5, and one of the recommendations was either you remove LO, and I got a sense that from the presentation that was not considered, and I correctly believe that it was correct not to consider a replacement of LO by the 6th administration. I believe that the 6th administration decision to consider one of the recommendations of the ministerial task team and say to the task team, focus on this recommendation and let's see an implementation of this recommendation was very vital. I think it was vital as a first step, because for me, Minister, what would be important moving from here, firstly would be that I think it will be important and it will be beneficial for the portfolio committee to firstly understand, because I agree wholeheartedly that the current curriculum content from your grade 4 to your grade 9 is seriously Eurocentric. It's not only Eurocentric, but it's also history that for me is told from certain lenses. And of course, I agree with those that say we need to traverse and navigate. But for me, it's about us learning history that is factual, that is true. Because history is about events, it's about things that happen, occurrences that shaped the current and factual occurrences, factual events. I mean, Honorable DM, honestly speaking, I learned that history where the major focus of that content was us memorizing and cramming when Jan van Riebeeck arrived in the country. And even how it was pitched, even how it was taught to us, I can tell you today that it really did not capture or comprehensively capture the true reflections of exactly what transpired in the continent, in the country. And I'm happy with the recommendation of the task team that there must be an overhaul of that Eurocentric curriculum and the introduction and the inclusion of the anthropology, as you put it. I'm also one of those who are excited about it, and I'm saying it will be beneficial for us, perhaps, to have a portfolio committee meeting where you reflect to us on the current content, what the current content entails from grade 4 to grade 9, what exactly, and I think this was asked by Honorable Christians, which areas of changes are you looking at, and or Honorable Jordan, and this will give us an understanding of exactly which areas are we looking at overhauling, and that draft policy, because you've already consulted with the provinces, with the curriculum experts in the provinces, and I'm so encouraged by the responses. The response of the provinces as they're looking forward. Of course, they are highlighting some of the limitations that they foresee, which is the human resource aspect and overloading of the curriculum. So I think it will be beneficial for us also to get that understanding of what the current curriculum content entails. And the draft policy shift, I mean, the draft curriculum change, which is what the committee, the task team says that there must be, their recommendation is that we need an overhaul of the current curriculum. And I agree with Honorable Low that it is long overdue, that we must do it. And we must do it urgently, because it can't be correct that we sit and we say, we are satisfied and we are content because we don't have money. We're content with continuous history curriculum that is Eurocentric. And we then say to ourselves, well, it's fine because we don't have money. I don't think that is a correct approach. For me, I think it will be important for us to get the benefit of that presentation. And we'll look at our own scheduling and see when we can schedule this, so that, because April 2025 is just around the corner. And before the term ends, we would want to get some clarity as to really how far the committee, the task team has went, and so that we also don't arrive at April 2025 and you come to us and you say, we actually need an extension of this task team for another 5 years, or actually we need to change this task team, we need to review this task team. We don't want to get to that. So the benefit of understanding, comprehensive understanding of the work, even if it's a draft, up to this far, I think it will be beneficial for us as a committee to say we are engaging and interfacing with the draft work of the curriculum. So I think that will be very important. And lastly, to say, one would want to also, when you come to us, and this is for our own benefit as Parliament and as future parliaments that are going to come, that one of the issues that we've identified as a challenge for Parliament's work is the quality of public participation. And we've said, and we've blamed Parliament also in terms of resourcing the policy education, a department in Parliament to say, is it adequately resourced to ensure that it educates the citizens about to engage with the department, to get an understanding currently as to how does it infuse some kind of a knowledge and education on how this government works, on how democracy works. Do our young people who are going to be the future citizens that must shape and build this country have an appreciation and understanding of how Parliament works, of how government works, how a department works? What is a Department of Basic Education, its roles, its responsibilities, and what is the responsibilities? What is a concurrence function? And all those things. Because if the citizenry is informed, it's empowered, it has that kind of knowledge, the citizenry is empowered to also hold the government accountable better. And they are also able to actually demand and hold the Parliament to account to them, and to ensure that Parliament includes them on decision making much better, because they are informed and they know. And it is important that we infuse that education to this future adults through the curriculum. And one of the DG's mantra is that the basic education's most potent instrument in their hands is curriculum. And I believe that's true. And as a result, we also believe that fostering social cohesion and ensuring that we've got patriotic, informed, and empowered future citizenry, we can utilize this potent instrument being the curriculum. So I thought that would be important that we leave here knowing that we are going to have a follow-up on the two discussions, especially on this task team, where we also get an understanding of the current content and the proposed draft change of the content. And so that was as a way forward to say that this is what we must do, I mean, moving forward. And I'm going to leave it there and say that we want to thank the department, unless if there is any, and it will be a very quick follow-up if there is any, and we then move with our agenda items. But I wanted to thank the department. I wanted to thank the minister, the deputy minister, the DG, and the entire team for the presentation and for the information that has been also added to this presentation. Although DG, it is a lot of information. At some stage, I thought the department is trying to bury us in information, I see. But of course, it's information that we requested and that we wanted. Honorable Nube, I'm going to allow you, and I'm going to give you just a minute of that follow-up so that we can move. Honorable Nube.
Thanks, Chair. But it's not a follow-up, it's just a comment to the minister. Minister, will the issue of security in school be fixed? Students and teachers are dying. Yesterday, I visited Makuta High School in eThekwini region. Ilangthole khona umfundi waka grade 12 learn now step grade 9 with a knife and eventually died. Khona lapho phambi kwe-admin staff. Okuwukuthi kune security elilodwa ey'nganeni eziwu-2,000 kothisha abawu-63. So bengicela nje ukuthi ake kuzanywe indaba ye-security ey'koleni kube yiyo mhlampe siyibeka phambili. Ngiyabonga sihlalo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nube. I do believe the department would have taken note of that. It is not even an isolated incident. In the Northwest, we saw reports of such as well. And I do believe they've taken note of that. And the department will offer some form of a response after interacting with the province on additional steps taken to ensure the safety, especially in those in areas that are hotspots. So that is noted. With that said, thank you very much to the department. We are going to release you, and we will communicate with you on the follow-up engagements that we believe we should have on these two topics. And then we are, honorable members, we must remain so that we deal with the minutes of the previous meeting. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, DM and DG.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, members.
Mr. Brown, in the meantime, can we fly to the minutes?
Chairperson, thank you very much. I was going to come in on the matter. We have two sets of minutes outstanding. The one is the joint meeting we had last week with higher education, which you have a copy of. I have not distributed to members as yet. And then the other set is the one of Friday with the Q2 report. That one has been submitted to the content advisor, and you will get a set of that today. So for all sense and purpose, we won't have minutes ready for adoption at this meeting, and request that it be done at the next meeting on the 26th.
Okay, that is noted. The minutes with of the joint meeting, we might have to engage with the chair of higher education on how do we deal with those minutes. I think that will be important to get an understanding on how do we adequately deal with those minutes. But the minutes of Friday, I do hope that they are ready on Tuesday. Honorable members, in the absence of minutes, the that was the last item on our agenda. Safe to say that so we've had to break down, if members would have noted, the discussion of today on the agenda on infrastructure was supposed to include the scholar transport and nutrition and NSPS, and we decided to debundle because we felt that the presentation on infrastructure alone was so big, and as a result we decided to debundle the two, and we then agreed that we will then reserve the issue of scholar transport and the school nutrition for the upcoming portfolio committee meeting. So members will have to look out for that, which will then be discussed in the follow-up meetings. In the last week, I do hope that we will have a draft program for the next term, and we'll share it with members and we'll engage on that draft so that we adopt it and we know as and when we go for recess as to what is expected of us the next term. So, honorable members, with that said, thank you very much for your time, for your participation. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Long live the chair.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.